So then the race for the win. A really good fight for the win between three drivers, all had really strong races, and it kept us on the edge of our seats for a long time through the Grand Prix as well. One of the best Grand Prix of the season, in my opinion. But Max won. He's just got such tremendous pace. He's so hooked up, and as mentioned, he already had big damage. This is the fuel-corrected lap times of Verstappen, Perez and Leclerc in the final stint, and you can just see the sheer pace that Max has, and that's what gives him the win. Running a slightly more trimmed out Red Bull as well. He had good straight line speed to attack, and once he gets through the traffic around this point, you can just see the Verstappen blue line is lower, quicker than the red and the pink of Leclerc and Perez, and it's pretty much that wins him the race. Even though he had the penalty early on, the medium tyre stint wasn't great for him, grained up the tyres, but on the hard, the Red Bull was back to its prodigious self, and Verstappen came through. And like I said, without the front wing end plate, with significant front wing damage, it's particularly impressive, this one. And by the time he got up to the back of Leclerc, I think Charles knew pretty much that the game was up. We can see that move here, Verstappen on Leclerc, and Charles doesn't particularly defend too hard. But what he does show here, as we come into the corner, is how good he is on the brakes. So Max has come through on the inside. Charles is kind of ceded the position. There's not much he can do. The champions come through, and he's in a different league in terms of pace at this stage. But look at the braking. From being entirely behind, as Leclerc hits the brakes, he temporarily goes entirely ahead. So that shows he's got a couple of car lengths on the brakes, even on Verstappen here. Now Max releases his own brakes and gets back down the inside into the corner. Once again, Charles not fighting particularly hard for the race lead with Max. I think he probably knew that he had a fight with Checo, but when Max was on his tail, it was always going to be a lot harder to keep him behind, and through he went. Of course, Max was on the new tyres as well at that point, having pitted under the safety car. Charles didn't do that, kept track position. Maybe that was an error from Ferrari in hindsight, considering how he managed to pass Checo twice. That was what they were trying to hold on to. Also for Ferrari, didn't have Carlos Sainz in the fight at the front, so it was only Charles against two Red Bulls trying to consistently attack him, and maybe that could have helped them both in the fight if they'd locked out that front row, built up a bit of a buffer, had some strategic options in play, but probably with that pace that I've just highlighted with Verstappen, there would have only been one outcome in this Grand Prix, and that was a Max win.
Max Verstappen puts his name up in lights once again!
But there was a good fight for second place still. So this is the first move that Perez puts on Leclerc after the safety car. Sparks flying down the long straight, and he gets down the inside. Once again, Leclerc not fighting it particularly hard. He's slightly better in the brakes, comes back at him, but Checo comes through, and it's pretty routine at this point. Charles struggling to fire up those hard tyres after the safety car. They were scrubbed, and it's always harder to get the scrub tyres fired up. The more rubber means you can generate more temperature on it, and that's what a new tyre can provide. For Leclerc, though, he managed to get in the slipstream, and these two couldn't really shake each other off. And that was the nice thing about this Las Vegas circuit. Because it was so slipstream sensitive, we had sort of pass and repass a couple of times, not least between these two drivers right the way to the checkered flag. So this is the first move that Leclerc puts on Perez then a few laps later, after he's been shuffled down. This is for the lead of the race once again. And he's coming from a fair way back here, is Charles. As we come towards the braking zone, he's got a couple of car lengths to Checo. And it looks like Checo's just very surprised as Leclerc goes for the lunge, comes through on the inside. Checo thinks about turning in, but actually there's nothing he can do once the Ferrari's there. He cedes the place, and he'll go for another attack at another time. First of all, Verstappen will come through as we saw again, but Charles then makes a mistake. He brakes too late for turn 12, locks up and gives Checo a second chance, but it's a second chance he couldn't take. So we're on to the final lap now, on board with Leclerc, and if the last move was good, late on the brakes, incisive, this one is stupendous from Leclerc. This is one of my favourite overtakes of the season because it's just so late on the brakes, it's so committed, but so in control as well, on the final corner of a Grand Prix, which makes something a little bit more special as well. Here we go, on board with Charles in the slipstream of Checo, and look how far he is back as we get to the braking zone. Here we go again. He's miles back this time, and that's why Perez doesn't defend. In Brazil, we looked at how Fernando Alonso came back through past Sergio on the last lap, and that's because Checo was defending when he didn't need to defend. He was positioning his car sort of to the middle of the road, and because there was a DRS zone, exited the centre S, Fernando swept through and Checo lost out on the podium by the hundredths in the photo finish. Here, Checo doesn't defend because he doesn't need to. So it's a converse thing, really. If he had have gone to the middle of the road, then I don't think Leclerc could do what he's about to do here. But Checo just doesn't see it coming because he's so far back. But Leclerc's braking ability was just immense. And so he goes for it, sends it down the inside. And what I love is how he keeps the steering dead straight at this stage. This is the perfect overtake. As soon as you start turning in the braking zone with this amount of force going on, you're going to have a lockup and it's going to look wild and you're going to risk a contact. But because as he comes into this braking zone, he keeps the steering dead straight all this time under full load, big hit on the brakes, 5G plus of deceleration going on, a huge amount of energy. But it's because he keeps the steering dead straight, there's no front left lockup and he's in complete control. So he comes through, finally as Checo turns in, there's a little reaction from Charles to not cause the contact there, and he's in control doing that. And that is why that is such a lovely move from Leclerc, right at the final corner, and he makes it through. Could Checo have seen it coming? Potentially, because of the one from 15 laps before, but you can see again here, lap 35 on the left, lap 50, the final lap on the right, and look how far. Already, I was impressed with the one on 35, but the one on lap 50 is another couple of car lengths back. It's a huge send from Leclerc, but I think he'd been waiting, biding his time for the last opportunity, so Checo couldn't come back through, and then he knew from his dicing already with Verstappen, with Perez, that he had such braking ability, and he can just send it, and there's nothing at this point that Checo can do once he realises that it's happening. So probably Checo should have covered the middle of the road. There's no DRS zone here on the exit for anyone to fight back. And that was the position, but he was just simply not expecting Leclerc to throw such a lunge.
Charles Leclerc's going for it to the inside. Has he got the car slowed down? What a move, Charles Leclerc! Absolutely brilliant! And the last real chance that he had to make the pass.
Here's the data for it as well, which I quite like because it shows, first of all, a massive speed discrepancy between the red Ferrari and the blue Red Bull at this point. 28 kilometers an hour difference, but yet Leclerc brakes 7 meters later. So he's not only coming into the corner way quicker, nearly 30 kph quicker, but he's also braking later. So he carries that speed all the way in. The crucial part, keeping the wheel dead straight, as we've just seen, also hitting the brakes with a huge amount more force. 3.5 G was Sergio Perez's deceleration. Charles Leclerc got over 5 G of deceleration. So he's simply using a lot more of longitudinal G, and it's basically a move from full commitment, but with a real racing logic and sensibility there to make it and not be all arms and elbows out of control, swiping them both out. Lovely move from Leclerc and a brilliant drive to second place.
Yeah, at least the second place, at least the second place. Ah! I wanted that win so bad. But what a race, honestly, there's nothing left. Oh my God.
You did a fantastic job and you did manage really well.
Yeah, but good job, Charles, good job.